Hi, everyone. We're just waiting for a few other people to join, see if there's anybody else that's going to be joining us today, and then we'll go ahead and get started. All right, I think we have just about everyone here. Can everybody hear me okay? Awesome. All right, perfect. So, for those of you that do not know who we are and what we do, my name is Taylor. I'm actually the owner of Docket Launch, where our team exclusively focuses on all things lead docket. So, anything lead docket related, we have the answers behind. If we don't have the exact answer behind it in that moment, then we're able to go directly to the lead docket development team to be able to get those answers. So we're very closely intertwined with FileVine and with those members of the lead docket development team. Today, during our webinar, what we wanted to do was take a second to go into all of the details of the new leads report, what you can expect to see, what's going to be going away, the date of when that's going away, and what those next steps should be for you and your team for those different reporting structures in Lead Docket and all of the new features that you can see within the different reporting sections in Lead Docket as well. So if there are any kind of questions at any time, feel free to post them into the chat. Right now, we don't have anybody that's able to speak at this time, but we can take questions at the very end if there is anything that you guys wanted to discuss further. Right now, just put your questions in the chat, and Tony and Shannon will alert me anytime that there is any kind of questions that you guys have. So feel free to stop me at any time if there is anything specific that you all want to go over. So the first thing that we want to do is we want to navigate over to our reports tab on the left side here. And you'll see that the screen looks a little bit different than it did before if you guys aren't used to viewing the reports within the docket. Now, for this session today, we are only going to be going over exclusively what is in Lead Docket, not how it connects to Domo. That's something totally different, and that is currently in the works to be upgraded. We have a dedicated partner for all Domo related things. We personally don't take on Domo, but we do assist them with building the different reporting structures and making sure that everything is up to date in our mutual clients' lead dockets to make sure that you're getting the most use out of lead docket and the data that gets sent into Domo at that time. So for this webinar, again, we're only going to be exclusively focusing on the details that are in the current lead docket reporting systems here. Now, where we want to really go into right now is the reports tab up here at the very top. So in our reports tab, what we have are various tabs on the left side, just like you do on your main menu over here on the left-hand side. And all of your brand new reports that exist in the system are going to be here where it says new in front of it. And they typically have this customized data box next to it. So the different types of reports that are in Lead Docket, all of these reports you can export into an Excel spreadsheet at any time to export it out of the system and then kind of manipulate that data into different charts and graphs. But here in the system, there are some predefined charts and graphs that you can run with these various reports if you see the word chart next to it. Now, again, with Domo integrated with Lead Docket, you can send all of your data to Domo at that time, and all of that data will allow you to then create different project cards, different intake cards for all of the different areas. So if you wanted to get more granular with your case types, maybe you don't have all of your actual case types separated in the case type section. You might just have it as like a generalized personal injury, immigration, employment, but then you have subtypes under those. That would be a really great use case for Domo, but there are some other features that you could do in Lead Docket at this time as well. So all of your new reports again are going to be here that say new in front of it, and they mainly have this customized data box. All of your older leads reports that are existing in the system will already be here. Now, at this time, we've been notified that these older reports will not be going away. But this regular leads report, which used to be the most customized report in Lead Docket, will be going away on November 1st. So you have until the end of October to transfer all of your old reports from the legacy leads report here into the new leads report in Lead Docket. So again, this one's going away and it's super, super critical for you to make sure you go into your Lead Docket accounts and update those as soon as possible. We are available to help update those for you if you all are on a time constraint. Again, these won't be done until the end of October, so there's still plenty of time to go in and convert those over to the new leads report. Now, if you ever have a question about whether or not you do have the new leads reports set up versus the old leads reports, all of your current saved reports will be in your legacy tab here. So if you have a connection to Domo that's sending out from Lead Docket, very, very important to take a look at this and make sure that they are in your new saved reports area here with that new leads reports template. So that's the way that you can tell between those two different reporting structures in the system. Does anybody have any questions so far before we actually jump into the way that the new leads report runs versus the old leads report? All right.
Yes,
So,
looks like there's one question. Lead docket will not be set up until mid to late October. Should I wait for this webinar until then?
no, absolutely good that you're here to be involved in this process. We're going to show you how to set up every new report in the new leads report section and also show you some other features of the reports that not a whole lot of people know about because there's not as much training that goes into those reports. And usually it's set aside for a totally separate training with just those that are involved with the reports. With your lead docket, definitely important to get as much information as you can before you even get into the system and using it fully. Especially if you're an administrator, this is going to be very, very great for you to kind of follow along and see how you can build these reports yourselves. And you can even start building these reports as soon as you have all of your custom fields entered in. So definitely good that you guys are here and you will be receiving this recording afterwards so that you guys can have that and then go back into it and even create your own custom reports once you actually get data set in those reports. All right, perfect. So the first thing, okay, let's see here. Another question. Rebuilding each report again, or is there a way to transfer based on what has been structured already, and how would we do that? So, unfortunately, there is not a way for you to transfer those older ones for the legacy reports into the newer leads reports, just because the structures are entirely different. So, you would need to rebuild those leads reports again. And if you do have any of them going out to your marketing vendors, you would want to make sure that those scheduled reports are also set up with that new leads reports template as well. Again, we're going to show you exactly how to go about this and how to cross-reference those two reports to make sure that you are getting the accurate data into that new leads report and making sure that you're setting it up the correct way with the new structure. But if you all do need help with that, we are available to help throughout the next month to be able to get those all converted over for you, tested out fully before those old legacy reports go away. Anybody have any other questions so far? I know there's a lot that's going on with these reports and how they're going away. So if there are any questions or if you guys need any specific details during this webinar, definitely stop us. Let us know if there are any specific details that you guys want to see. So what we're going to do now is we are going to go into the old leads report in Lead Docket, and we're actually going to take a look to see how this currently functions with all of these older reports that I'm sure most of you do have set up. So here in the old leads report, you can see up at the top that there are very few filters. And if you click on show more filters, you can actually filter this down further. This will only allow you to filter with these specific items up at the top. And then if you wanted to see just one marketing source, you would be able to click that and choose it from the drop-down menu here. But the way to fully customize this report would be to go to the download Excel report option. Mark this as yes. There is a different sort by option that you can use. Most people do use the created date. And then there is this output column set. So with these, yes, those are native fields that are up here at the very top, such as your lead statuses, your case types. All of these are those hard-coded fields that you see in Lead Docket, typically on your Add New Lead screen. Now, all of your custom fields are here in the output column set, and any other additional fields that you don't see up here at the top, such as the person's address or their gender. Things like that that you might want to see in an actual output in the report will be here in the output column set for you to be able to view. If you have this marked as no, there is a default down below that will show you all of these options. But if you really did want to customize it with those older reports, this would be how you would go about it. And you would go to the output column set area. Now, in order to add in a column set for this older report, you would go to the Manage Column Sets area, and then you would go in here to customize what you want these different fields to be. Now, again, you can pull in these different fields from Lead Docket, whether they are the native fields or whether they are your actual custom fields. So if you wanted to see, for example, all of those leads that existed in the system, if they had a chase date associated with them, you wanted to be able to see the status and the sub status. Most people want to really generate information around the marketing source, seeing the case type, making sure incident date is filled in for all of their leads. This is the way that you would typically go about it. Now, once you do save this actual column set, this is set completely for this specific report that you're running, but you can always go back and choose a column set for any of those other custom reports that you are running in the system. Now, once you click Run Report, what that does is it will export that into an Excel file for you. And this is a set column set. There is no way to rearrange these column sets as they exist with the old leads report. So this is how they all show up. And even when you're scheduling reports out of Lead Docket with your older leads report, this would be the exact same way that they would be coming out of the system as well and into your emails if you do have them scheduled. Now, with this old leads report, again, that's going out at the end of October here, beginning of November, you really want to make sure that you're customizing all of those older reports to your new leads report. For those of you out there that have FileVine, this is very similar to the structure of how you set up your FileVine reports. In my opinion, it's a little bit more user-friendly than what the FileVine reports offer at this time. But there are different fields that you can add in here in your new leads report that weren't natively in that older leads report. Over on the right side here, you can remove any of these default ones that are on the side. So for example, if you didn't want the lead ID to be in there, you can absolutely remove that. If you wanted to have the intake full name to see who it was that created it, let's throw in a few more over here on the right side, such as case type. Let's maybe throw in our marketing source, contact source that sometimes people don't find important, but on our end, we like to make sure that our clients know what the contact source is so you can track different trends of how individuals are contacting the firm. And then we have our incident date that we might want to add in here too. Let's also throw in our status and substatus. And then we're going to go ahead and click next. Now, this is where a lot of people get confused, and we have been getting a lot of questions on how these filters work. It doesn't seem very intuitive on this screen right now, but up at the top, if you would like to search for any specific filters, you can absolutely do so. So if you wanted to filter by specific lead statuses, you would search for the field lead status, and you can either do equals any or is empty. At this point, it should never be empty, just with the way lead docket forces you to enter a status in the system no matter what. And you can choose multiple statuses here if you would like to view only leads in those statuses. Right now, we're going to make sure that we have all lead statuses listed here. Right now, at this time as well, we also have our marketing source. Marketing source here, you can only choose one at this time. We're really working with the lead docket team to see if they would be able to help make this more customizable so that you're not only able to select one marketing source. Most firms that we work with have multiple vendors that run multiple campaigns at a time. So it's really important for them to be able to combine all of those in one standard report to be sent over to them. But again, you can select anything from this list. And another really cool option that's here is that if you select any of your other custom fields, you can choose is yes, is no. This was not a native function within Lead Docket before with that older leads report, and you would have to go into Excel, actually do anything with that to be able to manipulate that data. Another really great option is if there is a text box field, you can actually search for anything in that specific text box rather than just having that field in that leads report and then export it into Excel to then manipulate it. If you have a text box field or anything that's open text in Lead Docket that you pull into your new leads report, there are several options now that you're able to customize this report with. So you can say that we need this to show all leads that are in any status created this month that have campaign that equals this specific value. If it doesn't equal a specific value, you can even have it to where if it contains a certain word or a certain string of words at that point, you can even see if it's empty or not empty and put that filter on. Now, as soon as you click run, this will give you a full report that has all of those leads based on what you have as that created date or that specific time range. At this point, this is just a report that you have ran one off. You've created this on your own. If you wanted to download that into a CSV file or an Excel file, you're able to download this at any time. But in order to schedule this report to be sent over either to your internal team or to any marketing vendors, which is something that we always suggest during implementation and anybody that we work with, just so those marketing vendors can get that information back from your lead docket without actually having to have a lead docket user license. You want to click save up here at the top, and then we're going to go ahead and title this report. If you want to make this visible to everybody else in the firm that has access to reports in the system, you'll check this box. Otherwise, this will only be able to be viewed by you within Lead Docket. Once you create your template in the system, you can then schedule it to go out at a specific time frame. So right now, these are the specific filters that we have in place for those dates. You can always go back one page to go back into the different filters for your date set if you'd like to. Some people only want to see those that have a signed up date between those two time frames. There are some other options for these scheduled reports as well with your new leads reports that weren't there already. With these different reports that
Sorry
are
to
here.
interrupt. Just quick question from
Yeah.
someone. Are you also able to add related contacts to the report?
So I know that that was one that a lot of people were really getting into with the different reporting in Lead Docket. Um, just because a lot of people want to see if they were listed as additional plaintiffs. I want to say that there is a specific one for related contacts that exists in the system now. So with this here, there is a new related contacts report that will show you the relationship. At this point, if we go back into here, I actually haven't checked to see if that is an option. No, it's not an option in the newer leads report, but it is its own separate report that you can run in Lead Docket at this time. So if you were wanting to see who all was an additional plaintiff and how many additional plaintiffs you've actually signed up on cases, this would be the report that you would want to use for that specifically.
Next question. Are you able to set the permissions for who is able to see the report, such as admins only?
Yes, you can absolutely do that. And that is a user by user permission basis. Usually, if you add in new users to Lead Docket under the Manage User section, there is a specific option for you to select down below if you want them to view regular reports or financial reports, both. And if they are an administrator, they see everything in the system no matter what. So if you want them to be able to view general reports, you can do so. You can even have them only view financial reports, but unless they have one of these three boxes checked, they will not be able to see general reports or financial reports in the system. Any other questions on anything else that we have gone over so far before we jump down into the rest of our scheduled reporting here for the new leads report? All right, perfect. So I think that we've does the yes no option have an unknown? At this time, I don't believe so. With lead docket and the way that the yes no field works, if it's not a required field within the custom fields, then it will allow you to select unknown. But at this time, it will not show you if it is yes or no in the filter section, but it should pop up in the actual leads report itself. If you wanted to have a yes, no, unknown option, what I always suggest doing is adding in a drop down field rather than just the yes, no. Just because, again, that functionality is a little weird when it comes to lead docket and actual reporting around it, as well as just general information. Yeah, thanks, Brandon. Those usually don't show up on those different options that we just went over. So, the filters will not show up for anything other than yes, no on those questions. And again, I would definitely suggest making sure that those are drop downs rather than the yes, no questions there. Any other questions so far? I wish I knew the answer to that specific question, Kyle. That's been something that I've been asking for a while. I did talk to the lead docket developer recently about having that as an option. So they are aware that we are definitely wanting that, and a lot of firms want that as an option to select multiple marketing sources for reporting. I've let them know, but the more people that get back behind it and actually submit their feedback through the Pendo screen within the question mark area up at the top right of the screen here in lead docket, the more traction it'll get and the higher likelihood it is for them to actually add that to their roadmap to get that moving forward. So if you haven't already, take the time to go into the question mark area here and share your feedback with them. Again, the more users that do that, the better it will be for those kind of features to get enabled in the system. They take those very seriously over on the lead docket side. And I know Josh Hostillo actually responds to almost every single one of them himself. So if you guys have anything specific, definitely use that question mark functionality up at the top right. All right, perfect. So then we're going to move on to the rest of the scheduled reporting here with just this new leads report. So again, at this time, we have our different date filters, data filters already set, but you can customize that on one page back. Now, there are different options for you to set for these reports to send via email. Before it was only daily or weekly, but now we do have monthly and quarterly. So this is very, very helpful to your marketing team. Any marketing vendors, any lead generation vendors that you all use, it's definitely suggested that you all get in your lead docket if you don't have Domo already set up and shared with them for these different options. Super, super important to give them all of that feedback as possible through your lead docket without actually giving them permission to go in and see every single lead that exists in your lead docket. So if we wanted to set this up on a weekly basis, for example, let's say that I want to see this every Friday at, let's say, 5:30 p.m. Right now, our system is set to Eastern Standard Time. If you all have a different time set in your settings in your lead docket, then it will send to you at that specific time. You can add in multiple recipients here, but the first thing that you need to do is you need to actually type in their information. And then as soon as you do that, click out of the box and it'll add them in as an option. You can add in unlicensed users. You can add in anybody that does not exist in Lead Docket as a user. Again, super, super beneficial to have this set up for all of your marketing vendors so that they can receive those conversions or why people aren't converting from the leads that you are receiving from them. Are there any specific questions that you all have right now on the new leads report that we went over? Anything about scheduling these new reports? Because there are a few other items that we definitely want to go over here during our webinar today. All right. You do not have the schedule button. So if you are in the new leads report here and you have everything filled out with your specific fields in this new leads report, filters all set, and then you click run, you should see the schedule button up here at the top left. And that should be for the new leads report only. Yes, it'll be grayed out until you actually save the template in the system. So once you actually save your template, that will then trigger that to be able to be scheduled. You're very welcome. Does anybody else have any other questions so far? All right, perfect. So then we are going to go ahead and move on to our next step here with our reports. With any of these reports that you are seeing in Lead Docket for those newer reports, again, taking a look at all of these from a glance, it'll have that customized data over here on the right side. One of the other reports that seems to be very popular with individuals is that new related contacts report. A lot of individuals, a lot of firms, a lot of our lead docket clients are wanting to track whether or not these individuals that are coming in have any related contacts associated with them. So here we have the is plaintiff option. So again, if we go to our add new lead screen, up at the top here, we have our contact information. If you add in a related contact, we have first and last name, scrolling down to the bottom, relationship is required, and then additional plaintiff is the one that we're looking for. So with lead docket, anytime you have multiple individuals involved in the same incident, such as passengers in the same vehicle for a car accident, super important to add in all of your passengers as related contacts and then promote them to their own lead later on. So that way you can track exactly where the main lead was, where did they originally come from, and as soon as you promote them to their own lead, what'll happen is all those details from your original lead will get put into that additional plaintiff. So with that additional plaintiff's lead, the incident date's already there, your summary's already there, all of your details are there. You just might have to go through a few person-specific details at that point. So with the related contacts, you can see the promoted lead ID. You can see is plaintiff again. And if you wanted to see all of those that were created maybe this year, and then is plaintiff is true. Once we click run, this will show us all of those additional plaintiffs that have been created in the system and if they've been promoted to their own lead. So this is a really helpful way for you to track your intake staff and making sure that they are using the system in the appropriate way based on what your internal processes are. I know that some firms do not want to have them added as their own leads, but in this case, if you are separating them out and counting them as individual signups, you would want them to be promoted to their own lead at that point. If you're starting to build out your lead docket to push to Domo, should you wait until after October 31st to start that because of the new Domo reporting? I would say you should start it now as soon as possible. I know that we have a Domo expert in here as well. Brandon, if there are any specific Domo questions that you all have, the team over at Swift is very, very heavily into Domo and making sure that the reporting works for you all based on your marketing efforts. So if there are any of you that are working on building Domo with any of the vendors, make sure that you get those set up sooner rather than later. You can customize that at any time, but it's always important to get that data in your system sooner rather than later so you can get that that full overview. Oh, so glad that you guys are working with Brandon. Perfect. Awesome. So I'm glad that you guys are signed up with them and moving forward. Yes, if there are any specific details that you guys have for Domo, I would definitely suggest you all go over to the Swift team. On our end, we deal explicitly with Lead Docket. That's the only product that we're certified in at this point, and this is the one that we've been backing since the very beginning when I first started at Lead Docket. So, if there are any other questions on that, let us know. Looks like Kyle has another question. So if you select plaintiff as yes, does lead docket add a separate lead with all the information from the original lead? So not until you actually promote them as their own individual lead in the system. What we have here is if we have somebody that is, let's say, your original lead that calls in might be a minor at this time, and you add in the mother as a related contact, but that mother was also involved in the incident. So we would add in the relationship as mother, and then we want to add her in as an additional plaintiff. Once you do this, at this point, what it'll do is it'll add her as a related contact slash additional plaintiff with that functionality of being able to promote her to her own lead after you create them as a lead in the system. So here in Lead Docket, if I were to go into any of my test leads that exist and I go into my contact tab here, there are two different types. We have the regular additional plaintiffs and then just related contacts. Related contacts should only be there if they are someone to contact on behalf of that individual, but additional plaintiffs take it a step further, which is somebody that was also involved in that incident that you do want to try to represent. At that point, what you would do is you would click the promote to lead button on that individual's contact card. That'll take all of their contact details here, add in your original lead as a related contact. All of your details for marketing will be here as well. And all of the details that you've already had in that original lead will be pulled over too. Sometimes this synopsis may need to be edited if you have person-specific situations in here, such as, all right, this passenger was actually this individual that we did just promote, so that's great that we have that in. PNC at this time was not the driver, so you would need to edit that. But essentially, this is how you do promote them to their own lead after they've been added as an additional plaintiff. So what you would want to do is add them as an additional plaintiff first, and then depending on what your internal processes are within the firm, if you promote them to their own lead, which is always suggested so that you can track their workflows differently, track their intake documents, track their electronic signature documents, super important to track those separately, in my opinion, so that you can actually nail down who is signed and who is not. But I would add them in as an additional plaintiff and then promote them to their own lead later on. It'll show the actual names, but it does not show the actual number of additional plaintiffs on that one specific lead within that report. And then, Brandon, I don't know if you want to chime in on the Domo 1.0 with the way that all functions. I know that there is the email functionality that goes from Lead Docket into Domo explicitly. Um, to be able to integrate those two together, but I'm not sure what the updated Domo will do at that point. I know that they will be talking about it a lot at Lex next week at the FileVine conference. So stay up to date on that with all of their different webinars that they're going to be hosting, as well as everything that they're sending out via email to everyone. Yeah, Kyle, what I would do is as soon as you add in the main person that's calling in, you would also want to add in anybody who was involved in that incident as a related contact every single time as an additional plaintiff so that you can have them be promoted and not have to go back and forth and update that and having to go in and manually add them in as an actual contact. Are there any questions that we have not answered or anything specific that you guys have? Yeah, if you guys have any specific items that you wanted to go over outside of the webinar for just lead docket support in general, we do offer lead docket support on our end at just an hourly rate. We don't lock you into a contract or anything. We'd be more than happy to discuss that with you guys after the fact. If you want to email our info at docketlaunch.com email address with any questions that you guys may have, or if you are looking for further lead docket support, we're more than happy to help out with that. Brandon has all the insights for everything Domo related, so some of it I'm not in the know about, but if there are any specific details that you guys have that you are already aware of, with when it comes to Domo and lead docket, at this time, I'm only aware of the regular integration through the same way that it's always been set up with the email structuring. All right. So if we go back into our report section here and we go to reports. So admin tools on our end, this is what we use as implementers or certified partners to go in and actually take a look at integrations, specifically anything that relates to webhooks sending out from lead docket to outside areas. And then anything that is custom created to use the API. This allows us to debug that information. Yeah, you have to be an actual certified partner to be able to have access to that. Everything that everybody else has access to is listed above that. So on our end, as actual implementation specialists and certified partners of FileVine, we're able to go in and see if there is a specific timeout with FileVine specifically. If you send over details to FileVine and an error pops up, but it doesn't give you all those details, we can actually go into that debug information and take a look at it further to see if it's something that we can do or if there is something that needs to be escalated to the lead docket team for behind the scenes on the back end of the system. So at this time, what I would suggest doing with clicking on a leads hyperlink through the report to open it in a new tab is just hold down the control button on your keyboard and click on it, and that should open it in a new tab in your browser for you, rather than just taking you out of that report completely. All right. Are there any other questions that we haven't answered yet, or anything specific that you all are wanting to go over right now before we jump down into some of the other really cool reports that are in the system now that weren't available before? All right, perfect. So then we are going to continue on with some of these other reporting structures that are in the system, such as the phone calls reports. There are messages, phone calls, everything here in the phone area is something that you really want to stay focused on when it comes to if you have call rail or call tracking metrics integrated with lead docket specifically. For those of you that use either one of those call tracking systems natively with lead docket, there are some features in here that you do want to keep aware of. The old inbound phone calls report will not go away. It's super, super helpful to take a look at this on either a daily or an every other day basis to make sure that your intake staff are correctly utilizing lead docket and making sure that they're actually entering in the caller ID of the individual that's calling in to make sure that you are accurately getting all of your marketing data in the system. So, as an example, If we go to our add new lead screen, there is this caller ID box up here at the top left. This is a feature flag that would need to be enabled by someone either at Lead Docket or one of your certified implementation partners to be able to fully utilize the actual tracking systems with CallRail and call tracking metrics. For those of you that don't know about CallRail and call tracking metrics, it's essentially these are two different softwares that will give you different tracking numbers to put on your different advertising avenues or even your SEO. So for things like Google My Business, Google LSA, Google PPC, your website pools are super, super important to have in place. What these do is these will track all of the information from before the lead even got to your website and either filled out a website form or clicked the number at the top of the screen to call. What that allows you to do as the end user is you enter in the phone number that that person called from. And then, much like my name is grayed out here and I can't change it, if you enter in that phone number that that person called from and you click out of the box, it'll actually show you whether or not they called a call tracking number. After that, based on the information that you have in your phone area in Lead Docket, if you have it associated with a marketing source and a contact source here, those will be preset for you as well, again, depending on what you have as your presets. So for those of you that do have Google My Business, Google LSA, PPC ads, social media ads, anything where you're advertising yourselves on any platform, I always suggest having one of those two call tracking platforms so that you can accurately track this information in Lead Docket and not have your intake team actually guess where they ended up coming from in the end. It's really, really helpful for all of your inbound calls that are coming in, as well as your website forms, as long as your website development team is aware of how to integrate the two together. There are several pieces on the back end of the system that allow you to have this information preset as well. If an individual happened to click on a Google Ads advertisement listed, or if they clicked on the Google My Business profile on Google itself and then got to your website and filled out the form. There are back-end pieces that we usually set up during our implementation to allow this information to pre-populate and get you that information in the end. Now, back into the call tracking piece of this, with Lead Docket and your inbound calls report, or your just inbound phone calls report from Lead Docket specifically, this would show you all of your inbound calls to any of the tracking numbers, as well as any of your texting numbers that exist in the system. So if the lead clicks on the phone number that you're texting from and they call into the firm, you'll be able to see that here in the system at all times. If they happen to call into a call tracking number, what'll happen is if your intake team or whoever's doing the intakes does not actually fill out the information correctly with that caller ID field, what'll happen is there will be a button on the left side that'll say unassociated. That means that that phone call that is listed here is not associated with an actual lead in the system. So, with this area, one thing to keep in mind is that not every single phone call will be associated with an actual lead in the system. When it comes to those inbound phone calls to those tracking numbers, you could have vendors that are looking you up on Google and they just click on the first number that they see, and that's how they get in contact with you. So, it's super important that your team or somebody on the marketing side is vetting those to make sure that they are accurately being recorded in Lead Docket and that any new phone call sources are being added into the manage phone area in Lead Docket so that you are all accurately tracking that information. Now, to go back into your new inbound phone calls report, this will give you a lot more information than just your standard information that you're getting out of the system. Again, this is going to be for your phone calls only. So, super important to get CallRail call tracking metrics set up for Lead Docket so that you can track this information. The transcript is also able to be seen in just this actual report itself. If you wanted to see which ones are being associated with which marketing sources, contact sources. You can even get your click IDs exported from Lead Docket this way too if you're sending it to an outside platform. On our end, we usually suggest using webhooks, but it's also good for anybody who is managing your Google Ads to be able to get those click IDs in a actual Excel report so that you can give that to them and they can cross-reference everything. As we all know, integrations break from time to time, so it's always great to have some kind of backup report to make sure that those integrations are working properly if you do have anything set up such as that. We also do have the current URL and the referring URLs here. If you have a recording URL, this is one thing that I wanted to mention. If you just run it here through the lead docket reports, what'll then happen is it'll give you a recording URL, but if you click on it, it's going to take you to a Twilio login. The way that you get the full recording URL at this time is by downloading it to a CSV file and then being able to click on it in that Excel spreadsheet to accurately get to that recording information if you're wanting to test those calls. You do not have to have access to Lead Docket to get those. So if you do have somebody like a marketing vendor or intake optimization specialist team that is actually going in and listening to those calls, they don't even need to have access to Lead Docket for that. Again, you can schedule these emails to go out at any time too, so that they don't have to continuously go back into Lead Docket for that information. And then just a few other of these reports that we have found really, really helpful for clients so far. These new settlement and expenses reports, these were not originally available for Lead Docket. It was very, very difficult to get this information out of Lead Docket before. You had to use the API to be able to call the system itself to get the information out. But now you can actually export it from within Lead Docket at any point in time or even send it to an outside source. So for those of you that do not have FileVine, with Lead Docket and FileVine, there is such a thing called phase mapping where it will push back your settlement information to Lead Docket automatically once that project reaches a particular phase in FileVine so that your team doesn't even need to worry about it. But for those of you, most of our clients that have things like Clio or CasePeer or even Neos or TrialWorks or anything of those kinds of case management systems that don't have that native pushback, it's super important that you're coming back into Lead Docket, entering in your settlement amounts, entering in your fees amounts, things like that, to ensure that you're actually getting the most out of your reporting in Lead Docket itself. Another item that we always stress on are your expenses over on the left side. Any marketing expenses that you have on a month-to-month basis, you want to make sure that you're adding those into the system as well so that you can accurately get things like return on investment. Again, if you don't have Domo already set up to be able to do this information for you into your different kinds of Excel spreadsheets or not even Excel spreadsheets at that point, your different graphs and different imaging that you would want to see in Lead Docket, make sure you're adding in those expenses on a monthly basis. There are two ways that you can add in marketing expenses. You can either do that by importing through the Manage Import area in Lead Docket, or you can add them in one by one in your expenses tab here. Again, it's super important to have your marketing sources granular enough to be able to track this information too, such as your Google My Business locations. You're able to enter in your specific expenses for each location rather than just Google My Business as a whole to be able to get your return on investment and things like that. Now, again, before this is not something that was able to be done through Lead Docket, but you can now export all of your expenses into a spreadsheet or send that somewhere outside of Lead Docket if that's something that you all would like to do, if there's going to be a specific person involved that's handling all of that information. So, very, very important to, again, add in that information, make sure that you're adding all of this information in accurately. I'm going to go ahead and just add in all of our fields here, click next, and then as soon as we hit run, this should give us all of our information for any expenses that we've added in so far. So are there any specific questions that you all have at this time? I know that we have about 13 minutes left of our webinar, and I want to make sure that everybody has the ability to answer any kind of, get all of their questions answered here, and then make sure that we have any other items that you all wanted to go over, here as well. I just put in the chat our info at Docket Launch email in case there are any additional pieces that you guys want to go over or maybe schedule a free Lead Docket audit to make sure that your system is performing in the way that it should based on what you all have set up. We're more than happy to get access to your system, go in, see what's working, what's not, make our suggestions, and send that back to you free of charge. And then if you choose to retain us after the fact, we can help you set up any of the items that we suggest or anything that you suggest after receiving that free audit from us. So there is a way to do it automatically through the API with Lead Docket. It's a little bit more complicated depending on what system you have, but it is definitely doable to do it through the API itself for your marketing fees. Or if you have it all in a spreadsheet, which is probably the most popular way to add in your marketing fees here, if you select your import type to expenses, you can click the view map button and it'll tell you all of those fields that are required here and what they should be associated with. And then you can also download your template and take a look at what it is that you would be importing at that time. Brandon, I don't know if you have any specific suggestions on getting the marketing fees into Lead Docket other than through the import or through the API, or if you found that there's an easier way to do it with your marketing background, having worked at a firm and done those marketing things with Lead Docket. And we can allow you to speak as well because we want to make sure that you're showcased here too.
Hey, I was just typing a message. Hi, everybody. So as Taylor mentioned before, Swift, I was the marketing director, strategy director at my firm. And the way that we automated this was using Zapier to pull marked expenses for marketing from QuickBooks and post them into the. That's probably I find to be the easiest way because it's like a one-time setup. It's involved on the new marketing expense type. But other than that, I would say um, what Taylor said about using the import option, that's fine.
Thank you so much for that input. I know from your perspective, actually working on the marketing team and doing that on a day-to-day basis for an actual firm that you worked at, you had the most insight to something like that. So thank you for popping in and allowing everybody to get that answer based on your specific background. Does anybody else have any other questions, or is there anybody else that wants to just say say anything out loud? We can allow you guys to speak at this time now that we've gone through the full webinar and shown you everything that we had to go over. So another question, with fees and settlement information to be able to be housed in Lead Docket, will there be a way to see ROI, net fees in Lead Docket now? Yes, that has always been something that has been available in Lead Docket. There is a specific KPIs area that you can get that information through the system. I believe that is in the financials area, if I'm not mistaken. So once you start getting that data entered in after a few months, it will start to populate your KPI, actual revenue, return on investment, time on desk, I believe is another option that's there. I know that our demo system is a little bit older and we have a lot of demo information in here, so it might take it a minute for it to actually populate. This is one of the older reports in Lead Docket. At this time, I'm not sure if they will be updating this report at all. I know that they've been heavily pushing on getting some of the other um, reporting updated before some of these other items listed here. So if there is anything specific, we'll be sure to share that with you all. If you're not subscribed to our MailChimp, we're going to be sending over any kind of new updates to Lead Docket specifically because sometimes those don't get sent out to everybody. And usually it's a surprise to us as well. And we like to make sure that all of our clients or anybody that follows us is informed for those newer updates that happen in Lead Docket. But yes, there is a KPI list that is in Lead Docket. If you did want to go in and view that in your Lead Docket now, if you haven't started populating your settlements and expenses in the system, then I would definitely suggest adding in a few months of those details, and then you should be able to generate that specific report in the system.
Someone has a question of if we use Clio to track settlement fees, how can we pull that data into Lead Docket?
So when it comes to Clio, I am not sure of all of the logistics on exporting the data from Clio to get it into Lead Docket, but in Lead Docket, there is a way to import all of those details. If you go into your Manage Import section, and then you can select your import type here, and then choose Settlements. This will also show you your specific map of what is required at this time. If you wanted to see this in a more detailed overview or just see what it's like to enter in a one-off, what I would do is go into your leads tab and search for a lead that is in the signed up status that you have sent to Clio to see the definitions of all of these different fields. Now, when it comes to Clio and lead docket, at this time, I don't believe that the lead ID will go over into Clio Manage into a specific field, but there should be a matter ID that is associated with the lead and lead docket and with that matter in Clio. So this is what you would use for that specifically is put in the case tracker code and also down below, we have the option to automatically close out that lead too based on that settlement date. So if you wanted to have it closed out, no longer listed in your open cases area in lead docket, this will again give you things like time on desk, how long it takes for these specific case types to close out. But this would be the way that I would go about it is use this specific template, get the matter IDs from Clio and add that into your code field to be able to import all of those details. So this would be the one that you would want to put that Clio matter ID into. Are there any specific questions? Will there be another refresher webinar before we transition to the new reports? We could definitely do that, or we could meet with you one-on-one. I know that I'm already working with your team on a lot of items now, so if you all need help with those specific reports and making sure that those are all transferred in time to the specific new leads report template, we can absolutely hop on a quick call to go over those details. And this will be recorded for you all, and it should be sent over to you after the fact so that you guys can view it afterwards too at any time. Yeah, no problem at all. Did anybody else have any other questions? Anything else that you wanted to go over? Floor is open to you all if there is anything specific. I want to make sure that everybody gets their questions answered today if you have any. Yes, we can absolutely help you set up all of those items. And depending on what case management system you're using, yes. So somebody on our team is probably working with you to implement your lead docket. And do you know who it is that you are working with? Because I don't have your firm's implementation details up in front of me, but we can absolutely walk you guys through that and help make sure that those are all set up. Yes, we will be at Lex. Shannon and I will both be at Lex next week. We will not be there on Monday for the base camp and on Thursday for the advanced base camp, but we will be there Tuesday and Wednesday. We will not have a booth this year, but we will be walking around. And when we are not, talking with Filevine and new potential clients for lead docket. We are there to help anybody with any kind of quick lead docket items. If you have like an integration with Intaker that you need to have set up, or you need something adjusted in your lead docket, we'll be there, free of charge to help you with those things. And if it's something that might be more extensive, we can definitely jump into that as well. Yeah, that is not a problem if you guys aren't going to Lex. I know a lot of the newer clients, and especially those that have lead docket with other case management systems, don't really try to attend Lex. But I would definitely suggest going if you are looking at Filevine and your firm doesn't already have Filevine. A lot of it is geared towards Filevine, but then there are teams like us that are there to help walk through any kind of issues or any details that you have on lead docket specifically. I know Brandon and his team will also be there for anything Domo related, making sure that everybody has the setups correct for what they need to do. And also, we just really like meeting our clients in person if we have the opportunity to. All right. Does anybody have any other final questions before we let you all go on with the rest of your day? All right, perfect. Well, if there is anything else that we can help with, or if you all have any specific questions, email our specific email for info@docketlaunch.com. That'll be directed to all of our team members. We'll be sure to have somebody get back to you today with any specific questions or additional items that you guys want to go over. If there are any specific details that you missed out on in this webinar, maybe you showed up halfway through. This will be recorded and sent over to everybody. So if there is anything else that you guys need, feel free to reach out to us at any time, and we look forward to chatting with you all soon.